What's going on, everybody? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and we are about to get into some physical media fuckery right here in this video. But strangely enough, I know, I'm going to blow everyone's mind by changing the formula. This time, it's not actually about the Nintendo Switch. Although that will provide a comparison in this video, this one isn't actually about the physical media side of it for the Switch. This one is about some physical media fuckery when it comes to the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. Now, the reason I say that is because we all know the Spyro Reignited Trilogy is out next month. I believe it's the 21st of September, and it's coming on Xbox One and PS4. There's a rumored Switch and PC version down the line, but we're looking at what we know about the Xbox One and PS4 versions. So the Reignited Trilogy, of course, includes the complete remakes of Spyro 1, 2, and 3 on Xbox One and PS4. Very similar to what we had with the Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy collection. But there's some wording on the actual Spyro website as well as the Spyro box art that raises a couple of red flags and a couple of questions. This particular wording actually says that Spyro 2 and Spyro 3 require digital game downloads. Now, first off, chances are this means that they're still all going to be in the one collection just like you had the Crash Bandicoot one. I very, very highly doubt that you'll be booting up the 3 games individually. They're most likely still going to be on all there in whatever way when you put in your disc or when you have your probably single at least anyway, digital download. Now, there's possibly a couple of reasons for this and possibly some weird stuff about it. So real quick, let me explain a couple of things why this may need to be done or why it may be done but not completely needed. So first up is the most unlikely option, because these games can fit on a 25 gig or 50 gig Blu-ray. 50 gig is pretty damn big when it comes to most console games. At least for their base day one launch versions. Sure, after the game is out for a year and it's received multiple DLCs and updates and whatnot, then maybe the size will go above 50 gig. In fact, I've got a couple of games that are actually around the 100 gig mark, but that's beside the point. These Spyro games aren't anything exceptionally huge, so I would be extremely shocked if even these 3 games put together even came close to 50 gigabytes. However, if by some magical reason they did exceed 50 gigabytes, it would make sense that this would happen. But at the same time, because Spyro 2 and 3 were both digital download versions of the game, that would mean that just Spyro 1 is 50 gigabytes? I don't think so. In fact, I can damn well bet you it's not the case. To the best of my knowledge, on current platforms like the Xbox One and PS4, there's only 2 games to this day that actually didn't contain the whole full base game content on day one. One of those being the Master Chief Collection on Xbox One, which of course had 4 games as well as 4 different versions of multiplayer in there, so they actually couldn't fit the game on the entire Blu-ray with all the day one content. It averaged out to about 64 or 65 gigabytes, so they opted to put the multiplayer side of it as a download in the day one patch. So obviously that game exceeded the capacity of the Blu-ray. The other one is a little bit stranger though, because the other one is actually LA Noire, and this applies to both the Xbox One and the PS4 copies. Obviously they're the remastered ones, but that game only totals about 18 gigabytes, and on both of those platforms there's only 4 gigabytes on the actual disc. So it's not a storage capacity issue. And obviously if you don't download the other 14 gigabytes, you can't play the entire base game content. And that, in my opinion, is complete bullshit. And you'll see why now in a second. Because before we go any further, I want to point out that Activision actually released a statement that kind of clarified, or at least tried to clarify, the whole situation with Spyro. But to be completely honest, they worded it in a very strange way, probably on purpose, to mask the fact. I'm not going to read out the whole little blurb that they put out, but the key thing that they actually highlighted was that, like most games in these days and era, day one patches are not any different. This wording is there to encourage users to install the day one patch and let them know that this is a requirement for playing certain games. Now here's the whole problem with this situation. This is essentially what I've been bitching about on the Nintendo Switch side of it for the best part of over a year now. Because on the Nintendo Switch there are many games out there that don't fit on the physical media. Mainly because Nintendo have a really poorly designed and convoluted physical media system for the Switch, which is usually too cost prohibitive for most developers and publishers to actually use without increasing the price of their game, and therefore looking like it's a worse opportunity and a worse investment to buy it on that console because it's more cost, potentially lost sales, and maybe even a smaller margin. But the big problem with all of these games, regardless of their platform, be it Nintendo Switch, Xbox One and PS4, this is the biggest concern I have when it comes to this. A few years from now, granted it's probably 10 years or more from now, when the servers for the Xbox One, the PS4 and the Nintendo Switch are turned off, these games are basically rendered moot and obsolete. If you buy a pre-owned copy of one of these games once these servers are turned off, or if you somehow find new old stock that's been unopened or whatever and buy that on the cheap, should you put one of these games into your console, because the online servers are off, that means the patch servers are off. You won't be able to download the rest of LA Noire. You won't be able to download Spyro 2 and 3 in the trilogy you just bought. And this is some absolute bullshit and fuckery to the highest degree. This is one of the main reasons why I actually say we're properly not ready for a digital future. It's simply because of licensing issues, and obviously licensing issues doesn't apply here, but the other big reason that I don't feel we're ready for it is these companies are out to fuck you. These companies are out to take away your control, your longevity of your product that you paid probably full price for with your money. They're taking control of your use of the product out of here. And sure, you might say, but Q, I'm not going to uninstall this from my Switch, my Xbox One or my PS4. But what happens if by some magical reason you lose all your data? What if your console breaks? Or what if maybe you one day eventually say fuck it and you do uninstall it, and then a couple of days later or maybe weeks later or months later, whatever it is, you want to go back and play it. Oh look, you can't play Spyro 2 and 3 anymore. You can't play the rest of LA Noire. Depending on the console you're on, you can't play whatever other game. And just before we finish out the video, I want to highlight something that's probably the biggest and most bullshit of this entire thing. The fact that Activision are probably doing this for what I can only call pre-owned / DRM / cheapness reasons. As I mentioned earlier in the start of the video with Spyro allegedly being 50 gigabytes or the potential for it being 50 gigabytes and above, there's 99% sure that that's not the case. So if that's not the case, why is Activision doing this? Well, it's just fuckery control reasons. Assuming these games are not 50 gigabytes and above, there's absolutely no reason why all of this shouldn't be contained on the disc. And because of the wording of the update that Activision actually put out, with the day one update to access the games, it's unclear if it's just a small maybe 10 or 100 megabyte patch just to allow access to the games and they all actually are on the disc, just not unlocked, if that makes sense in a really weird way. But it's also unclear if it might be a 20 gigabyte download to download the entirety of both games. That's kind of moot though, because regardless of if it's a 100 megabyte download or a 20 gigabyte download, you can't play the games regardless until they're downloaded, which again is absolute bullshit fuckery. It doesn't really affect me personally. I'm not really into Spyro. Who knows, when it comes to PC, maybe I'll eventually buy it in a Steam sale. But this is overall just some bullshit for the gaming community. We should be able to play our products that we paid our money for, and people wonder why I love my old consoles so much. You can't take away stuff like Super Nintendo or PS1 games from me, motherfuckers. And those will work till they die, not just until some publisher or developer says so. Anyway, what do you think of the whole situation? First off, why do you think Activision is doing this? Do you also think it's going to be a small download just to unlock it, or if they're going to be full-on proper sized downloads for the entirety or the majority of the games? Does it matter to you? Or what do you think of the whole thing that publishers are pushing more and more towards complete control over your product, your money, your time and investment? Let me know all that good stuff in the comments section below. Hit the appropriate button to let me know how I did on the video. And while you're at it, go on over and hit that subscribe button and turn on the little notification bell. Granted, getting a notification from YouTube about live streams or video uploads in 2018 is a whole other story, but at least you can say you tried, am I right? As always guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the rest of the videos in my channel.